the laughter came first. Sharp, careless. The kind that lands before you even realize you've been cut. On Christmas Eve, my dad stood by the tree, clearing his throat like he was about to give a speech. Gifts were stacked high, bright paper, expensive weight. He called out names one by one. My sister, her husband, her son, even distant cousins. Wrapping paper tore. Smiles flashed. Cameras clicked. Then nothing. I waited. My children waited. The silence stretched long enough to feel intentional. That's when my sister's son, 16, smug, already learning cruelty, looked straight at my kids and laughed. "Guess Santa forgot you," he said, grinning. When I stood up, my hands shaking, my sister rolled her eyes. My dad didn't look at me at all. "You're taking it too seriously," he said, like I'd spilled wine on the carpet instead of watching my children disappear in front of a room full of family. "Hi. My name is Lauren. I'm the eldest daughter. The dependable one. The one who hosts, who pays, who smooths things over. A single mother of 2 who never missed a birthday, never forgot a check, never said no when my family asked for help. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I picked up our coats, took my kids' hands, and walked out into the cold. Behind me, I heard wrapping paper crinkle again. Someone turned the music back up. We drove home in silence. At 7:14 the next morning, my phone buzzed. One message. From my father. "Don't ever insult us again. Help us with your punishment." I stared at the screen, my chest tight, realizing for the first time, they didn't think they'd done anything wrong. I read the message 3 times before it made sense. Help us with your punishment. Not apologize. Not explain. Punishment. That was when the past started lining up, quietly, neatly, like receipts I'd ignored for years. I was the one who paid for my sister's wedding flowers when Dad said money was tight. The one who covered my nephew's private school deposit just for this year. The one who sent groceries to my parents' house when inflation hit and pretended it didn't hurt. But when my kids needed braces, my dad said, "You chose that life." By noon, my sister called. Her voice was sweet in that practice way. She said Dad was very upset. Said the family felt disrespected. Said Christmas was about gratitude, and my reaction had spoiled the energy. "What exactly is my punishment?" I asked. A pause. Then, "You'll help us like you always do. Dad's expecting you to cover the January mortgage. And maybe think about your tone next time." I hung up without answering. That night, my daughter asked why Grandpa didn't like them. I told her he did. But even as I said it, something inside me cracked, because deep down, I knew the truth. They didn't just forget my children. They were comfortable erasing us. The next week, the pressure started coming from every direction. My dad stopped calling, but his absence felt louder than his voice ever had. My sister, though, she was relentless. Long messages, missed calls, passive-aggressive check-ins that all ended the same way. "So, have you figured out the mortgage yet?" At Sunday dinner, when I wasn't invited to, my nephew posted photos online. New sneakers, a gaming console, a caption that read, "Family is everything." I felt sick. When I finally confronted my sister, she laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic, Lauren. Dad didn't owe your kids anything." "And I owe you?" I asked. "That's different," she said easily. "You're better off than us." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was true, but because it explained everything. I was useful. Not loved. Not respected. Useful. That night, I pulled out old bank statements. Numbers I'd never added up before. Transfers labeled temporary help. Family support. Just this once. It totaled more than I'd spent on my own children in 3 years. My hands went cold. They hadn't just ignored my kids on Christmas Eve. They'd been quietly draining me for years, confident I'd never stop them. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt clear. Because now I knew exactly what I was to them. And exactly what I needed to take back. The breaking point came faster than I expected. 3 days before New Year's, my dad called a family meeting. Neutral words. Dangerous intent. I went alone. They were already seated when I arrived. Dad at the head of the table, my sister beside him. Arms crossed like she was waiting for a verdict she already knew. Papers were laid out in front of them.
Neat. Prepared. Dad didn't waste time.
We've decided, he said, tapping the documents, that you'll transfer the house support directly to me from now on. Monthly. No delays. After your little Christmas performance, this is the least you can do. My sister slid a paper toward me. It was a repayment schedule. For money I had gifted. For help I had never asked back. You humiliated us, she said calmly. This makes it right. Something in my chest went quiet. I realized then this wasn't about gifts. Or respect. Or even money. This was control. I stood up slowly. Pushed the paper back untouched. I won't be doing this, I said. Dad's face hardened. Then don't come back. Don't bring the kids. We're done. My sister smiled, small, satisfied. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. And suddenly, the room they thought they owned didn't feel so solid anymore. I sat in my car for a long time, engine off, hands still on the wheel. I didn't cry. I felt something colder settle in, something steady. That bank notification wasn't random. It was a reminder. A quiet nudge from reality. Over the years, I hadn't just sent money out. I'd structured things. Accounts in my name. Automatic payments I controlled. Temporary arrangements that somehow never became permanent on paper. They assumed loyalty meant access. They were wrong. That night, after my kids were asleep, I opened my laptop and pulled everything up. The mortgage payments I'd been covering? Still linked to my account. The utilities?
Same.
The insurance my dad bragged about having?
Paid by me.
Renewed automatically. Every month. I didn't cancel anything yet. I just paused. I called my attorney the next morning. Not angry. Not emotional. Calm enough to be dangerous. I need to know exactly what I can stop, I said. She paused, then smiled through the phone. Lauren, she said, you can stop almost everything. I hung up and looked at the calendar. January was coming. And so was their lesson. I didn't announce anything. That was the key. On January 1st, while the rest of the family slept off champagne and denial, I logged in and made the changes, one by one. Mortgage payment removed. Utilities transferred back to owner responsibility. Insurance set to expire without renewal. Each click was quiet. Clinical. By noon, my phone started vibrating. Missed call from Dad. Then my sister. Then Dad again. I let it ring. At 3:47 p.m., I finally answered my sister. Her voice was sharp now, stripped of sweetness. What did you do? I stopped, I said simply. You can't just. Dad is furious. The bank called. The power company sent notices. I picture my kids at the table behind me, doing homework, warm and safe. I didn't sign a punishment contract. I continued. I signed my own name on my own money. She hissed. You're tearing this family apart. I smiled for the first time in weeks. No, I said. I'm just stepping out of the role you forced me into. The line went dead. And for the first time, the silence felt like mine. They showed up 2 days later. No warning. No apology. My dad stood on my porch like a man who'd never been told no, his jaw tight, his coat still expensive, but his confidence thinner. My sister hovered behind him, eyes darting, calculating. You embarrassed us, Dad said the moment I opened the door. Do you know what people are saying? I leaned against the frame, calm. Do you know what my kids asked me on Christmas Eve? He flinched. Just slightly. My sister cut in. We can fix this. You'll restart the payments. We'll move on. Move on to what? I asked. The next punishment? Dad's voice dropped. Family doesn't abandon family. I looked past him, at my sister. Family doesn't erase children. Silence. For the first time, they had nothing ready. No papers. No demands. Dad finally said, if you don't help us, don't come back. I nodded. I already left. I closed the door gently. Not slammed.
Gently.
Inside, my son looked up from the couch. Are they mad? Yes, I said. Are we okay? I exhaled. We are. Outside, I heard my sister crying. Inside, something finally settled into place. Because they weren't chasing respect. They were chasing control, and it was gone. The twist came a week later. Quiet, almost poetic. I got an email from the bank. Not a warning. A confirmation. My father had tried to refinance the house to cover what I'd stopped paying. That's when the truth surfaced. My name was still attached to a lien from years ago, added when I helped him temporarily during a crisis he never fully recovered from. He couldn't move forward without me. My sister called that night, voice shaking. Dad needs you. Just come talk. Please. I met them in a public cafe. Neutral ground. Safe. Dad looked older. Smaller. I didn't realize how much you were doing, he said quietly. I believed him. I just didn't care anymore. I'm not here to punish you, I said. I'm here to end the arrangement. I slid a document across the table, my release, in exchange for one thing. An apology. To my children. Out loud. In person. My sister's eyes widened. Dad hesitated. Then he nodded. That night, my kids heard words they'd waited years for. And when we walked away, my daughter squeezed my hand and whispered, Mom, you chose us. I smiled. Because for the first time I had.